it's always a pleasure to dignify the show with the presence of the premier columnist here on the South Florida newspaper scene. We've been paying a lot of homage to the newspaper, and it is true what Andy said. Bowels work better with a newspaper in your hand than they do with a phone. So I'm still inclined to pick up a physical copy of the paper. It's a highlight of my day. And we welcome one of the distinguished newspapermen of all time, Dave Hyde, to the program. David, how are you, my friend?
I think that should be our promo now for the Sun-Sentinel. Bowels work better with a newspaper in your hand. I can see that on buses going through the city, can't you?
A fat old Jew on the toilet, just refusing to let the old habit die. Join the modern world. It's costing me $1,000 a year for the New York Post. I could pay $8 to get it online, but forget about it. It's just the way it is.
The time. Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
I don't mean to start the show with bathroom humor, but it happens to be true. I can vouch for that. Bowels work better with a newspaper in your hand, people. I mean, there's nothing like the sports section when you're on the throne in the morning. It's the only way to get everything functioning, especially as you get up there in years. It's even more important. My dad used to read like the equivalent of War and Peace while he was on the toilet. We used to tease him about it, and I now understand exactly where he was coming from. Thank you, Dad, for another great lesson in life. All right, welcome to the show. Good to have you guys with us. Didn't mean to start there on such a macabre, I don't know if it was macabre, but a grotesque note. Yeah, picturing me on the toilet, naked, balls dangling into the bowl, trying to, squeeze one out and, having my New York Post in my hand and going, hey, look at that, the Mets lost yesterday. They're really crying in New York.
Oh, my God.
All right, good to be with you. Insane. What's that? How you doing, Libby? You all right?
I was just saying, good morning, everyone.
Yeah. Stupid direction to go in. But, I mean, my second thought, I mean, that just hit me as you played that clip. It's absolutely true. And you notice Dave Hyde, a very distinguished journalist, picked up on that right away. Yep, and said it ought to be the marketing slogan of the Sun-Sentinel, which, let's face it, circulation has to be down dramatically from what it was at one time when this paper was a powerhouse. Nobody gets a newspaper delivered anymore. My guy curses me out every time he comes to the door. I can hear him, even though the newspaper hits the door at about 4 a.m, which is great. I'm still asleep, but, up and down, out of sleep. I mean, it's hard. When you're waking up, do you find as people, you guys that are up right now, you people that are up right now, that if you're compelled to wake up at an absurdly early hour of the morning, you wake up several times during the night thinking you've hit that time, correct? I mean, do you sleep through the night? I never really did as a morning drive broadcaster most of my career, and still to this day, it's the same thing. I was like, why am I doing this? I'm up at 3 a.m. here, and I can't go back to sleep. So, but I do hear the paper hit the door there, and then I can hear the guy cursing in Spanish all the way back to Hialeah. I really do. Chinga la madre, all of this stuff that he's saying. I'm like, I only know a little bit of Spanish, but I know that he's saying something bad about my mother. And that was from working in kitchens in Los Angeles, where most of the kitchen help was Mexican, and they reveled in making fun of the waiters and the cooks and everybody that didn't understand what they were talking about. And you knew they were talking about you. And that's not even a paranoid thing, but, you're saying, hey, listen, Pedro, enough already, huh? About my mother? Huh? Give me a break. Anyway, my other thought, speaking of mothers, this has to end, this business with the Queen. It has to end. How long can they schlep this body around? People were waiting. Lubie, did you see this? This is insane. People were waiting in line. Now, one of the scarier moments while I was in Italy, and most of it was wonderful. Some of it that was a little bit of a schlep and a drag, right? Because you're traveling to different parts of the country, and you got to get on a train. You got to make this. You got the Mustang barking in your ear. Hey, we're never going to make it. It's like, well, yeah, if you were ready an hour ago and we were supposed to leave. How does it immediately become your problem?
It's always on you.
Surely, is this true of all women that are in relationships with guys, that are of our, what would you call it? Philosophical position where, we want to do our own thing. We want to be left alone. Largely want to be left alone. But all tension is immediately transferred to you the minute that you're taking off on a trip.
Yes. It's so funny. I literally made the guy stop on the highway to check for the passports just because, God forbid, we were going away for 10 days. And if we didn't have the passport, now we can't go. And that's on me.
Yeah, it's on you, right?
Us to have both passports, even though she usually keeps them in her bag. I still now was stressing out that we'd have the passport.
I couldn't tell you what part of the house my passport is in.
Exactly.
The Mustang takes care of all of that as if she was, hoarding the documents at Mar-a-Lago. Where are they, Donnie? I don't know. I don't know nothing about any nuclear stuff. What are you talking about? I got that love letter from Kim Jong-un, and I took the one from Obama, which I am planning on lighting on fire to get a cigar going here while I'm sitting out there on my porch by the beach. But no, and it immediately becomes your problem, when you're traveling with a woman. Now that being said, listen, and I don't mean to sound sexist at all, or certainly, I don't really have. I would imagine my opinion on the monarchy in England is that what is the point? Why are the taxpayers funding this wonderful life for these people who are purely symbolic?
Yes.
And it's great. The Lost Language of Symbolism was a book my father gave me a long, long time ago, and of course I didn't read all of it. But
what you did read,
barely scratched the surface. It was a little deep for me. Lost Language of Symbolism. But I understand symbolism and its value, and it's great that they have these traditions. I mean, it's always kind of fun, right? But why not just go to a Renaissance fair if you want that? Start jousting with some asshole from Davie. I mean, be the way to go. Oh, but people were waiting, and when we were in Italy, one of the weird parts was when we did the Sistine Chapel tour, which I believe you do have to be on a tour to really get to see it. Yeah, would you agree with that, Lubie? Yes. It sounds hairy, and all of us degenerates, but we like to feel like we're totally independent. Yeah, I don't want to be in any fraternity. You know what? Fuck that. I'm a man of my own, ideas and means and practices, and I'm perfectly fine like that. And I was never one to really join a group. That wasn't my thing. Let's Eat South Florida would be like the only group that I'm really happy to be a part of. That's because Mayo's running the show there, and we're making money off it, which is good.
Well, we're all misfits. Right? Everyone's angry, bitter. It's not like a unison.
No, I don't know that that's the majority. Is that the majority of Let's Eat South Florida, that everybody's angry and bitter? I mean, there are a lot of people that fetch about nothing, stuff that's easily fixable, stuff that probably has a reasonable explanation that's coming from restaurants in terms of, and look, I mean, a cook can botch a meal. It's possible. I mean, you don't necessarily need to go out of your mind and have a conniption over the whole thing. And most restaurants are pretty reasonable about fixing things for dissatisfied customers, as long as that guy, or person is not too much of a pain in the ass, right? I mean, there are extremists where they're demanding stuff all the time. I'm not into any of that. I go to restaurants, it's essentially part of your entertainment.
Yes.
And, I mean, you could cook the same stuff at home if you really wanted to, but probably not as well. And it doesn't have the same vibe. But in general, I think the purpose of that whole thing, which I find, has been very positive, because you do find a lot of places that you otherwise would have never even thought to experience, like you did the other day with that Indian restaurant.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
You had heard of it pretty much from Mayo and Let's Eat South Florida, and you went in there, and it turned out to be sensational.
Yes.
Which is great. And those kind of things more than overshadow all of the kvetching about, you know what, we left the guy a 10% tip, and he never even said thank you.
You're lucky he didn't punch you.
Look in the mirror, lady. Yeah. 10%, man. This poor guy.
It was in 1960.
11 trips to the kitchen. You had to refill the water 6 times at the table there. You guys didn't even order a drink. The check was small to begin with. And then you're going to give the guy a lousy 10%? Go back to Montreal. What the hell? No. That would be excessive in Montreal. I couldn't get used to that in Italy. I couldn't get used to not tipping people. And I ended up giving virtually everybody at least like €5 for sitting at the table. I couldn't get used to that. Could you?
We didn't do a percentage. Like, when they see Americans, they actually expect a tip in some sense, because Americans tip. We just didn't do 20%.
But they think you're stupid. I mean, did they look disparagingly upon you because you're so stupid that you actually leave a tip? No, I think most of the people appreciate it. I really
happy.
do.
Very happy. They like Americans. As long as you're not the loudmouth American, they're a big fan, because usually Americans are just in awe of everything over there and tip. And they're very happy for the tip. They'll take it.
Anyway, yeah, and I tipped the tour lady from the Sistine Chapel tour. I'm glad you would have been waiting outside for like 10 hours to get in there in the schwitzing 100-degree heat that there was in Rome at the time. And with the tour, you rolled right in there. You didn't have to bother like going to your pocket for it was already paid for. Went right in, got right through, and you were immediately in action, which is what you want, right? Do you really want to be waiting outside?
No.
And wondering, is this line moving? Oh yeah, they were here a minute ago. Now look at that. They're all the way up there by the wall. And there were a lot of things like that were happening in Italy. When you wanted to see some of the main sort of tourist sites. But the Sistine Chapel was one thing. I think you had to do it if you were going to go to Rome for the first time. You had to go. And I'm glad I did. I mean, it was very interesting, all of that stuff. Although, like I said, there are only two people of importance in the history of the entire country of Italy. And that would be Michelangelo and Vito Anafermo. Only two people that matter there, right? Those are the two names you hear bannered about the most, right? Well, Michelangelo in 1500, and the guy was like 97 years old. He's on the top of this chapel, like pounding out some kind of light fixture.
That was my question. Like, how long?
That was when people lived to be 40, too. Like 40, you were an old geezer. There weren't people playing football at 45, not in the 1500s when this guy was around. Unbelievable. But you had to go on a tour there, and it was still like insanely tight to wait to go through there as you finally got into the Sistine Chapel after touring the rest of the building there, and then you made your way in there, and wow, did it get tight? There were thousands of people sort of emerging into like one line. It was like a backup of gigantic proportions on the Palmetto Expressway, where really that because of that one box took me 3 extra hours to get to work. Some schmuck couldn't have picked that up. Why doesn't anybody ever pick up the box that's blocking traffic on the highway? Just move it to the side.
It's always the dumbest thing.
Like, isn't that weird, right?
I hate, and I don't mean you never wish for an accident, but I always am like, I thought at least it'd be a helicopter.
Something, yeah.
It's like a lampshade.
two old Jews in Cadillacs, going, I never come to Dade County. I don't know why I decided to do it today. Because you wanted to get into a crash. That would be it. All right, but that line, I mean, was insane, and it was only for a few minutes. And I don't know. I don't really get claustrophobic, but you can very easily. I could see where a person could absolutely pass out. Now, they were waiting 12 hours to see the Queen yesterday. She's dead. People, get over it. She's gone.
We seem someone, Dave Hyde said something. What's Dave Hyde? I think Dave Hyde tweeted something, and someone's like, you just don't understand. And I was like, look, I've studied history with my major. So he was like, I understand, but it's like, come on. It's like the same thing.
Enough already. Come on, man. I mean, the lady seemed like a perfectly charming lady. It would be, I would think, very easy to be charming when you had people doting all over you from the time that you were born. Not even sure I would want that. She had this symbolic job that she was doing, a sort of ambassador type of work, I guess,
yes,
for the country of England, and trying to make people feel good and feel like it was worthwhile to be from Great Britain, even though it rains there every fucking day and you can't go outside. No, I can't see it anymore. As soon as I turn on any channel that has Queen coverage, I'm gone. That's it. I can't watch it anymore. I could watch endless reams of repeats of ESPN SportsCenter, but I can't watch any more coverage about the Queen. No disrespect. I think she seemed like a fine lady and made a great representation of the role that she was supposed to play. I think she did it very well. This King Charles seems to be a better person than he was when he was cheating on Diane. But, who am I to judge? I don't care. I mean, it's a royal family. But by the way, I mean, how do you view Harry? Is he just a complete tool? This guy, guy is lost. You talk about being Svengali.
Oh, I was gonna say, like
my God.
Look, I would want to do what he did, but I wouldn't have done it if he wanted to go break free, then go break free. To wait for some I don't know if she's B-list. I'd never heard of her. I've never seen her in anything.
Oh, Meghan Markle? Yeah.
Which was a big deal. But
good looking babe, I would have to say. Very attractive woman.
Well, I'm not looks, but just her star level.
Talk about becoming infatuated with the wrong woman, though.
You're going to let her take over everything? Like, come on. Like, do what you want. You want to? I couldn't live that life either. You want to renounce
You
stuff?
were a prince. He was like third or fourth in line to the throne. He could have been the king.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Imagine having a leader like that. I mean, just weak. Unbelievable. He seemed like a likable figure before he ran into Meghan Markle, right?
Yeah.
Because the rest of these guys were kind of distant, weren't they?
Well, he was the one that
In
went
the
to the
royal
military.
family.
He like fought. He like went in the military. He
Yeah.
fought, and, like was treated like a regular person, and did the good work. And he was like the most like Diana. They always would say because he cared about
Special Olympics. I think he's big with that. Special
Yes.
Olympics, very noble endeavor.
Yes, he carried the torch. That was the thing. Was he was the one that really got down with the people. And then he marries this starlet who really throws everything to shit.
Ruins his life. I mean, just takes him right out of his entire element there. Now they have plenty of capital, which is good because they were blabbing to Oprah. And that's the sort of incongruous element there, where I mean, if you really wanted to get out of the spotlight and you didn't like the treatment you were getting, and you thought all of these ugly, nasty things about the royal family, even though you were in the royal family, but Meghan jumped in there for a year, and maybe she did experience some negativity. I wouldn't know. But, I don't know that she didn't know what she was getting into. Maybe it was overwhelmingly harsh. She wasn't anticipating that. And if she wanted to get out and take Harry with her, that's great. But then just disappear. It's like O.J. Simpson. You got off on a murder rap.
Yeah.
You killed 2 people. What are you doing pirating cable TV in South Dade there and getting into, road rage incidents with guys and ending up in court again? Go to a non-extraditable country, collect your NFL pension, and just get out of our lives once and for all. Go to Costa Rica and play golf every day. But, don't be in the spotlight again. Get out of here. And that's kind of the whole thing with Meghan and Harry. I mean, why on earth? Well, we know why they did it, because they want to make all of this cash. And they don't want to lose the spotlight, and they want to be in the limelight. And they're only there for what? One reason, because Harry was born into the royal family.
Yep.
Which makes him what? A very unlucky guy with a silver spoon in his mouth. That's about it. But if you're going to toss it, they seemed really out of place there. I mean, just their very presence seems to be disturbing to a lot of people in England. But to wait 12 hours, can you wait 12 hours to see a stiff? I don't care who it is. Lubie?
To see a stiff.
A stiff. I mean, I hope this woman was well embalmed. I don't know, who did the funeral, process on the body there. What happened at the morgue? But geez, I mean, it's already, going to be showing signs, of rotting this carcass. No,
Carcass.
been out there just rolling around for like 2 weeks already. Get rid of it. Put it, in a bag and bury it. I mean, do something. Anyway, Sarni was right. I mean, it's only a matter of time before they're like parading down Atlantic Avenue in Pompano Beach. All right, here's the Queen. She's going to be in Pompano today. She'll be in Miramar tomorrow. Anyway, that has to end. All right, we need to get into some sporting material here, and it's good to have you guys with us. David Furones of the Sun-Sentinel will get into some Dolphin material with us later on in the program, about 20 after 8 this morning, so you can stick with us through there and see what's happening. The Ravens are on tap. I did see some highlights of Lamar Jackson, and all you heard about Lamar Jackson during the preseason was his estranged relationship there, the impasse that he was at, trying to get a new contract with the Baltimore Ravens. He's going to play for the last year, final 5th-year option on his rookie contract. It's still a decent amount of money, but nowhere near what these other quarterbacks are making, like Russell Wilson, for example, who got, $250 million in an extension, even though hasn't Wilson been in the league 10 years already? I mean, if you're going to play in the NFL, play quarterback. That would be the way to go if you can do it. And we'll get into the game here because it was a very strange game last night with Geno Smith opening up like 15 for 15 and outplaying Russell Wilson in the first half. Seahawks were leading 17-13. They hang on to win the game 17-16. And who is the new Broncos coach?
Nathaniel Hackett.
What's the guy's name?
Nathaniel Hackett. Wasn't he with the Packers? I'm trying to remember where he came from. He was like an upstart
No idea.
offensive coordinator guy that, is young and from one of these coaching trees that they think is going to be the next thing.
Who was the geezer they had in charge there before?
Fangio.
Fangio, yeah.
Fangio, yeah.
A real old school guy. They didn't have a lot of talent on the team. I mean, everybody's raving about how the Broncos defense is sensational and that Russell Wilson comes in and is going to turn the entire dynamic of that team around. Now he may well do it. I mean, there's still 16 games left in the regular season, and that would be one of the things naturally to explore here on the program today. How much were you dead wrong about in week 1? And can it reverse by week number 2?
Yeah, so Hackett was the OC for Matt LaFleur,
Okay.
who is from the Kyle Shanahan tree. So he's one of those McVay, Shanahan, young offensive gurus who made Russell Wilson look like he was at NC State.
Well, and coaches, they need to, they need to make tough decisions sometimes, and obviously they have to live with them. This guy makes one of the strangest decisions I've ever seen. Because at the end of the game, Lubie, there's about 45 seconds to go. The Broncos had been moving the football. They only need a field goal to win the game. Now, after all of the atrocious things that had happened to them, including 2 fumbles at the 1-yard line, the Seattle 1-yard line, they fumbled it twice in that spot, came away with nothing. And so, I mean, therein lies the differential in the ball game. Seattle also got stuffed, going, I believe, for a 4th down inside the 5-yard line. So that balanced out one of them. But there were 4 possessions or so that Denver had inside the 10-yard line in the red zone, and got I think nothing out of the entire 4 possessions. They might have gotten 1 field goal out of it. So they were totally inept in cashing in on tremendous opportunities. That being said, you just paid a guy $250 million to be your quarterback. The whole concept was that this was going to be a difference maker. You weren't saddled with Drew Lock and some guy that really couldn't get the job done, that you couldn't trust. Do you trust Tua 4th and 5 with the game on the line? Like, you're either going to make the 5 yards or lose the ball game. Do you trust Tua in that spot? Probably not. I mean, it's not like he would fail every time, but he hasn't demonstrated yet that you should have, incredible confidence in his ability to do that. So maybe, if that's your opinion of a quarterback, all right, you opt for what seems to be an impossible Tom Dempsey-esque field goal try, where, this distance has been accomplished. I don't know. Has anybody kicked a 64-yarder? What's the record? I think it's a little higher than that.
Prater guy, Elam, Prater, Dempsey.
In Denver, no doubt. Dempsey had 63 yards, and that held for a long time. I think somebody's eclipsed that.
Prater, the guy that was with Denver, with Evo, Prater had a monster leg. But, it's not a 42-yarder.
No. Even that would be suspect now. I mean, extra points are suspect since they moved the thing back a few yards. But, I mean, a 64-yard field goal, you would have to think, mathematically, odds and probability is what? I mean, 5% that the guy could make it, even if there was no snap involved and rush. Even if he had a free kick from 64, you wouldn't be overwhelmingly confident that this guy was going to make this kick. All right, so there's about 50 seconds to go in the game. Denver's moving the ball, but they come to a 4th and either 4 or 5. It
was 4th and 5,
and they're around the 45-yard line of the Seattle Seahawks. And look, so you're at a do or die situation. Your options are kick the field goal there or attempt one from 64 yards, or have your $250 million quarterback attempt to make a play. Now, if either situation fails, you're going to lose the game. So which is more likely to succeed? Russell Wilson making a 4-yard pass completion when they were moving the ball against a defense that's supposed to be so suspect, some thought the Seattle Seahawks defense was maybe the worst in the league. That was some of the rhetoric going into this ballgame. That Denver was going to be able to pound the ball on the ground, that their run defense was horrible for Seattle, and they were starting Geno Smith, who is the punchline to a lot of NFL jokes. Geno Smith, not that he doesn't have some talent, which he's demonstrated, a couple of different times. He's shown flashes. Has he been able to sustain it over the course of an entire season? I don't know that he can. I don't know that he's really been given a chance of late. He's been in the league 8 years and is probably best known for having his jaw broken by a teammate.
I was going to say from getting punched by a teammate. Yep.
There you go. I mean, think about that. If you, ask somebody, hey, name me something about Geno Smith's career, some people would say, yeah, he started for the Jets for a while. Geez, you know what? I always thought he might make a decent quarterback, but he just couldn't put it together. But the first thing that comes up the majority of times is, oh, yeah, isn't that the guy that had his jaw broken by a teammate in the locker room? Yes. So that lies as his distinction. That might be the first line in his Wikipedia biography. Geno Smith, who was drafted in the 2nd round by the New York Jets and was punched in the mouth by one of his teammates because he thought he had welched on a bet. Unbelievable. Anyway, Geno starts out. He's on fire, but they didn't score a single point in the second half. And Denver seemed to have the momentum, and it looked like they were going to win the game, right? You said you turned it off because you thought Denver naturally was going to go Nick Saban, march down the field, get the field goal, win the game 18-16, and, everybody was going to be happy. It would have been 19-16. So, and it would have been no time left for the Seattle Seahawks to respond. And it didn't look like they were going anywhere anyway because their offense had completely bogged down in the second half of that game. And they were very lucky to hang on and win the game by a point. But if you're a coach, I mean, what do you have a better chance of accomplishing? A 64-yard field goal or your $250 million quarterback completing a pass and, generate or even running on a 4th down and 4 and keeping the thing alive? Now, he lets all the time that he could tick off the clock. They still had 3 timeouts also.
Oh, my God.
They had 3 timeouts and about 48 seconds to go in the game. And this guy just lets all the time click off the clock and then calls a timeout, and everybody's stunned. By the way, too, I mean, the money that ESPN is spending, I know they had to fix a lot of problems with the announcing team because look what they've been through. I'm probably very short on a partial list of some of the people they've foisted in front of us here to do color analysis on their Monday Night Football game. Jason Witten, that would be probably, the worst of the worst. Booger McFarland, who they can't find enough roles for now. Is that just a makeup call because they're paying Booger for being on the Monday night announcing team, and now all of a sudden they can't find enough things for him to do? He's like taking out the trash, this guy. I mean, it's incredible. Louis Riddick babbling just incessantly to the point where you can't even listen to the game anymore. It's just enough already. You had Brian Greasy, who is about as vapid as anybody that you would ever find in a color analyst role. Tony Kornheiser going way back. Dennis Miller. They've tried so many different things. So finally they say, well, let's get this fabled announcing team of Joe Buck and Troy Aikman. Now, the next thing that Troy Aikman says, and I don't mean this in a disparaging way, he seems like a perfectly nice guy, good-looking kid. I don't know that he's ever done anything wrong in his lifetime, Troy Aikman. But the next thing he says that gives you any insight into the game beyond what you already know is going to be the first thing that he says that contains that kind of impact. No, really, what the hell is this guy saying? Nothing.
I thought about it.
Nothing.
He was doing a whole thing, and I'm like, Defo's not wrong. I don't even know what he's talking about.
He doesn't know what he's talking about. I think, the CTE, God forbid, is maybe clicking in just a little bit here. Well, what he's got to do is run downhill. He's got a chip on his shoulder, and he's playing with a real sense of purpose, maybe even a little sense of desperation. Okay, thank you, Troy. What does all that mean? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. There are no illustrations that Troy Aikman gives you that makes you think that, wow, that was interesting. When was the last time he said something that you go, wow, that was great? And like I said, makes a good appearance. He yaks his way through the game. I don't know. It's not like he says things that are, blatantly stupid, but nothing. No particular insight whatsoever to make you think that this guy is worth $2 million a game to announce a football game. And Joe Buck, everybody says the book on Joe Buck is that, a super nice guy, very funny and engaging when he's not announcing. But when he's announcing, he puts on some kind of a phony air that you would have to say to some degree turns people off, no?
Oh, no. All he does is get mocked. They hammer Joe Buck. And I'm
Joe Buck, yeah.
I mean, he's all right.
All right, well, I'm out playing tennis last night with Dr. Jerry Perlmutter, also 71 years old, and, at this point, very inhibited in terms of his ability to move around the court. It's not like either of us is going to scare Carlos Alcaraz away from a game for money. All right, and I'm thinking, you know what? If Dr. Jerry and I were doing a game, if you and I were doing a game, Lubie, it wouldn't be any different for the people. It would influence nobody in terms of their desire to tune in that ball game and watch it. Aikman and Joe Buck could not retain my interest if the game was a stiff, which everybody was anticipating, and it was another home dog, Seattle getting 7. That looked to be impossible to beat that number, didn't it? Yep. Now, in my solo bookmaking act with my buddy Francesco, of course, I have Seattle. And I was resigned to the idea. I didn't even want to watch the game. I was going to get some, chicken fried rice, pork out for a little bit, maybe get some sleep, and, watch, my endless loop of Deadliest Catch. See these guys reeling in crabs all day while fighting seas that no, I mean, you have to be absolutely out of your mind or stoned completely to say, you know what I want to be? I want to be a crab fisherman. I don't care that you're making like $40,000 in like a couple of weeks. It wouldn't be worth it. It absolutely wouldn't be worth it. Those rescues they have from the helicopters with the things like waving in the wind and oh my God. And something's always breaking down on those boats. It's crazy. It's worse than having a wave runner.
From like 1948. Like they never have a new boat. It's
No.
like the oldest boat ever.
I mean, what a tub. Those old tugboats you used to see like in the Hudson River.
Exactly.
They look in worse shape than those. No, something's always breaking down, man. It's like the minute they start catching crab, all of a sudden, oh my God, they're leaking oil all over the place, and they're not going to make it back. Dutch Harbor is still 500 miles away. The announcer revels in the fact that people might die on the show. Talk about a reality show that smacks of the truth. They're hoping something catastrophic happens to retain your interest. But these two guys mean nothing in terms of any kind of audience generation. Would you agree? The fact that Aikman and Joe Buck were doing this game last night was consequential in no regard. I mean, in terms of influencing people, I think to tune in the game. And I don't know. Did they do a great job on it? Were they any better than these other guys? I don't know that it made any difference. I barely even listen to the commentary anymore because it's all so stupid.
I honestly, until I hear Ian, and that's because we know him, and I think he and Charles do a good job together. They neither does too much. They feed off each other well. I don't listen to anything. Like I'm in my own world. Most of the time, we're so multitasking that people are on their phone while watching the game. Like so, I don't listen to anything that they say. I have no idea what they're talking about. Like, and half the time
they become less important play-by-play guys on TV, especially than ever.
Well, and you've talked about this too, and with Aikman specifically, like half the time when a call's questionable, and I'm like, it's definitely this, they go the other way, and they're wrong. So it's like, why would I listen to them when they know less than me for some reason? Like, they're
afraid to commit. I mean, terribly afraid to commit. A lot of these color analysts are in that category. I mean, it's okay to be wrong. I think especially more so now. There used to be a great sensitivity of like, oh, my God, I was wrong. I can't believe I pronounced this guy's name wrong. Nobody gives a shit anymore. You just correct it and move on. You're like, I didn't know this guy's name was Archuleta. How the hell did I know that? Looked like Archie Bunker to me when I read it on the roster. People were complaining about Archuleta, saying that he was horrendously biased for the Patriots. See, now that kind of stuff I can dig. If they were going to do that would be wonderful. But I don't know. Is there anybody out there that said, you know what? I wasn't going to watch this game, but Joe Buck is doing it with Troy Aikman, and so I'm going to tune in, and I'm going to turn the volume up. I don't even care if I get a picture. That could be coming in like, that kaleidoscopic stuff that happens whenever there's like lightning in the air, and you lose your Wi-Fi, and all of a sudden it's, a Christo art project you're watching. And, are you thinking, wow, who designed this TV? Andy Warhol? But it makes zero, and no one is more into like announcers. I don't know. I guess there might be people than I am, and have been my whole life. I love studying them. I've really, it's been into it my entire life. Going all the way back to listening to, the old redhead, Red Barber, and Mel Allen, and the boys there doing a Yankee baseball game. I thought Bill White was a little bit on the vapid side. No, Bill White became the National League commissioner. Bill White, great first baseman with the St. Louis Cardinals, and he was doing Yankee baseball for a while. Who was the other guy? Messer? What was his name? There was a guy in there who was kind of like the Shemp of Yankee announcers. Like he was all right, but nothing special. Anyway, on the radio, makes a big difference, but nobody listens to games on the radio anymore. I tuned in the Marlins game last night. I was driving around after my tennis match there with Dr. Jerry. I figured, and Jim Sarney had alerted me to the fact that the Marlins were involved in a day-night doubleheader. They lost the first game in horrendous fashion, having it stolen away from them in, I believe, the 8th inning. And then they won last night. But I believe they were trailing or something, and they might have been. I don't know what the score was. They weren't really dwelling on that. And it was our friend Glenn Geffner. But, I mean, even there, what are you getting? You're getting, well, you know what? Bruce Sherman, I tell you, he came out today in an article written by Barry Jackson in the Miami Herald and said, we're all in with this team.
With what?
What does that mean?
All in? I mean, I'm glad they're not selling off the nothing, but what does all in mean?
No, they're going to do anything. They're going to go to
Oh,
all
all
extremes
in.
in the
Okay.
offseason. That they're even in the race for Aaron Judge.
Oh yeah. Oh sure.
Don't be surprised, if you see Aaron Judge trying to hit home runs futilely into that Death Valley out there. As soon as you get off the foul line in left field, where not even Giancarlo Stanton with his most gargantuan mammoth wallop. I mean, even he was displaying warning track power a lot of the times. Yeah, says they're all in. But I mean, the whole conversation is just how stupid are we as sports fans? Do something already, then talk about it. That's what has to happen in most of these situations. Now, the Broncos thought they did something with Russell Wilson. How you don't give this guy a shot to complete a fourth down pass there? That was very much like that LaFleur with Aaron Rodgers
Rodgers, yep.
and the Green Bay Packers in the Tampa Bay game when they lost the NFC Championship because the guy opts for a field goal in that spot. And that was a field goal that they made, but on the scoreboard it didn't do enough damage and didn't change the dynamic of the game enough to make you think that they were going to do anything but lose because you're going to hand the ball back to Brady and he's going to run out the clock, and that's what happened.
Yes,
and I think that was the beginning of at least the public spat escalating between Aaron Rodgers and the people that were running the Green Bay Packers. I mean, if you're Aaron Rodgers, you feel like what the hell are you doing here?
That's my thing. What's the point of having these quarterbacks? Like, every team dreams to have a franchise guy, and you can say whatever you want, but to me, there's like three: Brady, Rodgers, and Mahomes. I get Herbert's getting there, but to me, he doesn't do enough in the fourth quarters yet. Burrow's trying, but then the dude has 5 turnovers. So they're there. They're in that top 10, top 5 the conversation. But there's 3 dudes that are like freaking elite. Russell Wilson is in that conversation to me too. He got forgotten. What's the point of having these guys and then not taking advantage of it? Like,
well, what odds are better? I mean, do a little degenerate math in your head. Do you have a better chance of this quarterback completing a 4-yard play and keeping the game going? You have 3 timeouts and 40-something seconds. You may not even have to try to kick her out there. You might be able to just drive it into the end zone and end the game without having to risk a field goal try. Or a guy kicking a 64-yard field goal. If there was no other options at the time, yeah, okay. There's 1 second left, and that's as far as you got. Then send them out there. But with that much time left, I'm taking my chance that I can complete a play. No,
you just traded for him and spent $250 million. Why do that? You can do this decision with Drew Lock,
and he's a new head coach, right? Is this his first head coaching gig?
Young guy. Look, that was my problem with McDaniel was he was too aggressive, but people lauded him because you know what? You saw the team feed off of it, even though. At the end, they threw it a couple of times. It made no sense to throw it. The team believed in it. These decisions are the total opposite. Like, why would you go conservative?
That was a horrible decision. I can't believe this guy didn't take more flack for that. Because, like I said, he's got about 50 seconds. The options are, neither one is particularly favorable. It's all or nothing on a 4th down play, but it wasn't like 4th and 16. Or you're going to send a guy out to do something he's never done before. I mean, that's a thing in horse racing where people will tell you, okay, never bet a horse to do something that they've never done before. In other words, if the horse has never run a mile on the turf, you might, that's a bad example. But, if a horse has, never run 7 furlongs and never accomplished anything, in sprint races, never bet on that horse to do something turning back in distance that they've never done before. That's an old credo.
Now, and it's McManus, who we actually interviewed when he was the backup kicker years ago on Radio Row. He is now 1 for 6 on kicks of 60+ yards. So he was 1 for 5 at the time.
And that's playing in Denver, where 60 is, any place else is 52. So I don't know. And that decision wasn't overwhelmingly questioned by your boy Troy Aikman there.
Of course.
Right. They didn't even know what was going on. Nobody did because this decision was so bizarre to go for this field goal from this distance under those circumstances that, I couldn't even blame Joe Buck and Troy Aikman for having no idea what was happening.
No one
Which
did.
was the only time I actually, started listening to figure out what the hell is going on here. The guy's got 3 timeouts. He just let 30 seconds click off the clock and now calls a timeout. And then Wilson's going to the bench. And you're thinking, wait a minute. I mean, I'm not that great at math anymore, simple math, but I'm tacking 10 yards on to the spot where the ball is. I'm thinking, this guy's going to try a 64-yard field goal? You have to be kidding me. The only way I think that you would do that is if you had a fair catch at that spot with no time left in the game,
Oh, yeah.
and you had the option for a free kick. Okay, so maybe he can put it through the uprights from that distance. But wow, I mean that was, and then Carroll calls a timeout to ice the guy, and he misses badly on that attempt. And then I don't think he missed it by that much, to be honest with you, Lubie. I mean, it might have been a bad angle they were showing, but it didn't look like it missed by much. But a terrible decision by this coach, nonetheless. I mean, if he loses the game there and they throw an incompletion, the guy gets sacked, he falls short, guy is tackled right at the first down marker, and they mark it short. Okay, you lose the game, right? There are many times during a ball game where you have to make some kind of a decisive move, and it's going to decide the game. It's not always the last play of the game. I think that's lost on a lot of coaches, where they're afraid to make that decisive move earlier. And this was it. I mean, this was clearly a bad decision made by this guy, since A, it ultimately failed, but B, it seemed like a ridiculous thing to begin with. And you had a much higher percentage, I think, of making a play there. And there I go with a cliche, making a play, but of completing a play and getting the first down, and then still having almost 50 seconds to go in a game with 3 timeouts or 2 after you called one following the first down.
I just think
10 yards closer, he makes the field goal.
I think some of these coaches, and we did it with Norvell, like make decisions that actually they're intense situations, but the decision is easy. Norvell is easy. You just run a QB sneaker kneel. No one's going to question you. Let's say the kicker misses it. We've seen kickers missing kicks. That's not your fault, okay? No one's going to blame you. You literally did everything possible. Okay, you still have your touchdown lead. They're at the 2. Okay, so it's okay. You tried. You should get the kick. Oh, he missed it. Fine. It's not a tough decision. The situation is intense. The decision's easy. You have Russell Wilson. In this environment, he's won so many games with the fans booing him. So this is the moment he wanted. He wanted to leave for this moment, and you're going to take it from him?
Yeah, he was throwing these little dipsy doodle passes, the whole second half, and completing them.
That's an easy decision.
I mean, they were getting these kind of plays. Those plays they were successful on. Now, where they failed was they would knock it down to the 1 yard line and then fumble the ball. Otherwise, they win the game by 3 touchdowns. Anyway, getting 7 points with the Seattle Seahawks last night in what appeared to be a totally impossible situation. I'm a winner.
Yeah.
And it shows you that betting on the blind is far better than actually making your own selections. And we'll get into what we were right and wrong about with the NFL in the next segment here on the program. David Furones later on. Appreciate all the comments, as always, on the chat line. Good to see Andy's all right.
Andy's like...
it was Frank Messer. Frank Messer was to Yankee baseball what Jerry Doggett was as the backup to Vin Scully on Dodger radio broadcasts. Jerry Doggett. I mean, seemed like a nice enough guy, but I mean, you're stepping in there for Scully. It's not happening, right? Frank Messer. He was the Shemp, I think, of Yankee baseball announcers. Shemp was talented. It's not like he didn't have some talent.
It's fine.
Was he? You think of him as one of the Three Stooges? No. You're like, oh, shoot, Shemp is on the show today. Got a bad rap, Shemp. I think he was underrated.
He's fine.
Yeah.
It wasn't going curly.
All right, we did wrong about a lot of things, and I don't know that we were right about anything. So we'll explore that a little bit, because do you have to change your thinking in week number 2, or were you right to begin with, and it just turned out that week 1 was full of fluke results? Which now the new excuse is, and this was repeated many, many times by Aikman last night. Well, you know what? They don't do the preseason like they used to. Not like it was back in the days when Jimmy was coaching me. He doesn't even tell stories. I mean, you wouldn't know he played for the Cowboys.
That's the problem with Aikman. You just nailed it. Like all these other guys, if they're good at least or fun, will tell stories. This reminds me of this day or that day. He never tells a story, and he had some of the craziest days ever. He won a lot, was surrounded by lunatics. At one point, he had Dion, Michael Irvin on the same team, and Nate Newton. And Nate Newton, who eventually became a loon after he finished football. Like, dude, all of that, and one.
Nothing but characters, yeah.
Jimmy Johnson, and then Barry Switzer, and Jerry Jones as your owner, and you don't have any stories?
Not a single story. Nothing. No anecdotes, no sidebars. Not like, hey, you know what? I remember when Michael, Irvin was running down the field there, and I spotted him. He was wide open. Nothing. And you have to think that Troy Aikman, I mean, did he dodge that cocaine stash house that they had?
He probably did, but still, like he heard
Doesn't
about
he want to be one of the boys, right? I mean, they were lining up rails from the driveway all the way into the upstairs bedrooms and starting them. I mean, while crawling on their hands and knees and still playing on Sunday and winning Super Bowls. There had to be some stories. I mean, Jim Bouton probably didn't have as many stories about the Yankee clubhouse as Aikman should be able to share with us. Now, then you would tune in and say, "Wow, I can't wait to listen to what this guy's going to say tonight." And that just isn't there for any of these guys. I mean, it really is amazing to me that networks are falling all over each other, trying to find enough money to pay. I mean, making offers that were so ridiculous. When the truth is, I think it does almost nothing to stimulate interest in the game, and the guys they hired are not overwhelmingly stimulating. They don't necessarily. Al Michaels is all right, but I mean, look, solid professional, no question. A lot of people think he's one of the greats of all time. I think he's fine, but I mean, does he really make you think? Wow, I can't wait to hear Al Michaels and Herb Street tonight. Me and Dr. Jerry could have done a better job, I think.
I wouldn't doubt it. At least you'd have stories.
Let's go down on the field to Dr. Jerry Perlmutter. Well, you know what? I'm looking at this from a podiatrist's viewpoint. The big toe here is going to be a problem. Just ask O.J. McDuffie. It's nuts. I mean, what the extremes they've gone to try and make these broadcasts seem more important, and what have they done? Almost nothing. And kind of a dud of a game if you think about it. Who wanted to see Seattle stink out the joint and then they go out and win? The home dog thing, I'm not sure how it worked out. I want to say it had to be at least 50-50. You had some outright upsets by home underdogs in the NFL in week number one, so some major ones, and you have to wonder, my God, what is Shanahan thinking in San Francisco as he looks at the play of Trey Lance? When did this guy give you the indication that he was ready to take over the National Football League? Did you see that in any of his play last year? That they would have this incredible confidence in Trey Lance, and after week one, you're thinking about, thank God they signed Garoppolo. Bum arm or not, I guess he had surgery, so he might be okay. All right, Hialeah Park, great place. You can't go wrong there. I mean, people winning jackpots all the time. It's just absolutely fantastic. They want you to have a good time at Hialeah Park, and that's why they have such a wonderful, marvelous rewards program. You get a player's card when you come in the door, and wow, these guys are going to take care of you, and take care of you in first-class type of style. They know what they're doing at Hialeah Park. Brilliant casino management. Steve Calabro, I mean, he's been doing it for a long time, highly respected. You mention his name anywhere, and people go, oh, yeah, that Calabro. It's really something. And, of course, the poker room is also just very polished in the way that it's run. Champion simulcasting room, perfect place to punch away on opponents. Great food and drink all over the place. Really just a wonderful environment and a dazzling vibe that you get when you walk into the casino there. And as we say, the food and drink, not at ballpark prices, man. You're not getting robbed, hit over the head, which is sort of obnoxious, right? I'm at the Hard Rock there. By the time you pay for a drink, it's $20, one drink. They're not doing that to you at Hialeah Park. You're at the Brass Rail Bar, just hoisting them all day. And, you'll get a tab for $20 at the end of like a long session. Unbelievable. No, so they really take care of their patrons there at Hialeah Park. You're going to love it. Tremendous vibe. I mean, the integration of the old and the new, just a spectacular work of art. And, if you're looking for a good time, and they're open until 5 a.m. on Friday and Saturday night, 3 a.m. during the week, check it out when the doors open today at beautiful Hialeah Park, right at 9 a.m. And for other information, special events, parties, things like that, you want to arrange to have a party there, some kind of private event, HialeahPark.com is where you'll find all of that. All right, we're coming back with more in a moment here. David Furones of the Sun-Sentinel on the Miami Dolphins. What were we dead wrong about in the NFL? How much adjustment do we need to make in our thinking going into week number 2? Or should we just sit chilly and kind of let the game come to us? Yep. What do you think, Luke?
I think the latter. I think like Bill Belichick and like Jason Cole told us like last year, the beginning of the season is the preseason now. For whatever.
It seems like a bad idea, doesn't it, though? I mean, maybe you do need a practice game or two.
I just love that all preseason. Well, we're going to rest them. We don't want them to get hurt. First game. Oh, they never played. That's why they're rusty. So play them.
And then a lot of guys get hurt also. Yeah.
Play them then. That's
like everybody's out. They already lost half the league. Did you see this list? Yeah, all right, we'll get into that in just a second here on the Defo Show. Jeff DeForest and Mike Lubie with you. South Florida Live, thanks so much for tuning in. We're coming back with more in a moment. Stick with us. Now that.
The time.
7:50. Ponies in Style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
Hey folks, Tony Segreto here. You know, since day one, Catholic Health Services has been part of Old School. And since we've started letting people know about them, it's changed their lives. You see, Catholic Health Services, while being recognized as one of the top places for stroke rehab in the country, it's also about a group of people who not just excel in what they do, from the doctors to the nurses to the therapist, on and on and on. It's how they do what they do every single day that separates them from the pack. They do it with a passion, unmatched, and the inclusion of family in every step of the process. Trust me when I tell you this. If you want the best, unmatched rehab with a special group of skilled, caring people, there is truly only one place, and that one place is Catholic Health Services.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation location, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. Their hours have changed a little bit. Monday through Thursday from 3:30 to 10, and Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 11:30 to 10. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar, and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Hear me. I am your new president. From this day on, the official language of San Marcos will be Swedish. Silence. In addition to that, all citizens will be required to change their underwear every half hour. Underwear will be worn on the outside so we can check. Furthermore, all children under 16 years old are now 16 years old.
What's the Spanish word for straitjacket?
Power has driven him mad.
Welcome back to the Defo Show.
A nutbag, no doubt, but way ahead of his time with that one. Woody Allen, Bananas.
Okay, so I did this in the break, so that's what, a minute and a half. So I don't know how accurate I am, but I did my best. The home dog theory, if it worked this weekend, which it did by my estimations, is one you're definitely right with, because this was one that was a ridiculous. It wasn't like the home dogs were like teams you thought would win. The home dogs, for the most part, were ridiculous.
They looked horrible, yeah, including the Jets.
Was
Against
it
the
more
Ravens.
than 8? I think if I
altogether there were 9 because you had the Rams as a home dog on the Thursday night game,
and
then there were 8 others. Okay, so you figured this out?
Then I'm missing one. Falcons were a home dog covered.
Yeah.
Bears home dog covered.
And one outright.
And one. Lions home dog covered.
Covered.
Texans home dog. They got a push.
Covered.
They covered.
Covered.
Seahawks home dog covered.
Covered.
So I don't know what the ninth one is. Rams home dog didn't.
The Jets lost. They got hammered as a home dog.
And Cowboys home dog didn't. So I don't know what that team is. Okay, but you were 5-4, right? So you won, and this was a ridiculous.
Yeah, you would have won. I mean, and if you could have, I mean, look, the most ridiculous games were the ones that clicked. The Bears, you would have thought, were a patsy sitting there waiting to get thumped by the reinvigorated San Francisco 49ers with the great Trey Lance at quarterback. And I don't know. We weren't wrong about that one, but Kyle Shanahan sure looks like a stooge, doesn't he? At this stage, I mean, doesn't look good. All right, so what were we wrong about? I mean, were we wrong? I already had thrown in the towel on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers before the season started. They looked excellent in this game. Now, they only put up the 19 points. They were playing the Dallas Cowboys. They were on the road. The Cowboys fans, I mean, isn't it great to see them completely deflated and throwing the flowers into the punch after 1 week of a 17-game season, and with good reason to do so? because Mike McCarthy does not appear to be any better than Dave Campo was as a head coach there. And as you look at what they have going on with Dak Prescott now out 6 to 8 weeks, that was one of those ugly things where it wasn't Shaq Barrett. It kind of mauls his hand as he's letting go of a pass, and so he required surgery. Already had that surgery, and is now out for 8 weeks. And they have no backup. The Dallas Cowboys. I mean, they may as well bring back Jason Garrett at this point. Take him out of the booth.
Well, were the Vikings an underdog because they went off?
Oh, the Vikings, yeah, we're a home dog to the Green Bay Packers. So you go what, 6-3?
Is here they had the Vikings as a favorite because people started to get weird about the Packers right before game time. But all week we saw them as a dog, and when we did our plays,
I think they were 1.5 point dogs when we were on the air on Friday.
Won outright, so they covered. Yeah. So there you go. You're 6-3 if you won home dogs on the first week with a lot of ridiculous ass plays.
You would take that. I mean, that's not bad. It's 67% you're hitting at, and if you also put a little taste on each of those games on the money line, I think you made out very well. Yep. So there was a theory that, but you had to start it with the Rams game, and you might have been turned off by it immediately because this happens in the NFL. It's incredible. The parity is amazing, and we know. I mean, the basic philosophy is still a simple one. It's an empirical truth. And if the line makers were running the country, there would be no problems whatsoever. COVID would have been wiped out before it even threatened one person. We would have scoped it out, said, hey, there's a bat flying around in Wuhan. And we would have known about it in advance. Dr. Fauci would have been hailed as a hero. Why is he being held in such disregard, Dr. Fauci?
He told people to do stuff they didn't want to do, and no one's allowed to tell you to do stuff you don't want to do. Unless
Did he not seem like a credible guy to you? I mean, people paint him as a buffoon. Am I missing something here?
He kept changing because that's how science works. Until something's a proven fact, you put theories out, you test them, you do your best.
But this was a wild unknown, too. I mean, he may be an epidemiologist, but, there's a reason that this thing came on and just absolutely annihilated half the universe.
It was telling
nobody knew what the hell to do.
They didn't want to wear masks. And then a lot of the facts have come out since that if you didn't have the N95, a mask was totally pointless. So, Fauci, you were wrong, which he never said you have to do anything. He was trying to save lives.
You don't have to wear a rubber either, but you know what? If you want to lessen your chance of impregnating a woman, it's a good idea, right?
Everyone's got to have a villain. You can't just be like, oh, this disease sucks. We appreciate any help we can get. This disease sucks. It's your fault.
Well, I mean, his ideas were not as far-fetched as gargling with Clorox, were they?
That's what I'm saying.
That's what the leader was talking about. Get yourself some bleach.
There you go.
Start gargling people. And, maybe we can ward this thing off. And who was the woman with the scarves? That was also, that was more like, even she got tired of the whole rhetoric there with Trump and those daily press conferences. Remember that? That was only a couple of years ago, Louis. Yep. Talk about, what would you rather watch? One of those Trump coronavirus press conferences or Bill Belichick after a loss?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Not sure. All right, so were we wrong about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? They look good. And what is it? Godwin, he's got a tweaked hamstring. It wasn't a serious injury that knocked him out last year. And supposedly is day-to-day. So that's not too bad. I think they lost another offensive lineman already, which doesn't bode well for Tom Brady. Brady seemed to have, plenty of life in his game. I mean, he does those things that are extremely frustrating for anybody that wants to see his head rolling towards the end zone after a vicious sack, and he doesn't necessarily, react well when pressured, but he played well in this ballgame, did he not? And they easily could have put up, they had 5 field goal tries.
Yeah, they struggled.
And, only ended up with 19 points.
Is Dallas supposed to have one of the worst defenses in football, and the Bucs struggled to score touchdowns, which is not supposed to be. They have Julio Jones and Evans, and whatever either of those guys.
Julio Jones looked like a new man, didn't he?
He looked a lot better than I thought he was. So they should have dominated in the red zone. Those are 2 big targets that have really great hands. They shouldn't have struggled in the red zone the way they did. That's what the funny thing is, I don't think we're as wrong as you think we are because they won by double digits. The Cowboys didn't have the quarterback at the end. And even with Prescott, their offense looked abysmal. Their defense is not good. And the Bucs couldn't score touchdowns.
Yeah.
So to me, that's what I took away from that game is, yeah, the Bucs are what I thought they were. They'll be a playoff contender, but they're not dominant, and their line sucks. They can't run, and Brady did get rushed, which he hates.
I think Brady has a meltdown. I keep reading about it. Every time I see an article on Brady, the name of Giselle is mentioned now.
Yep.
And it's only a matter of time before, I mean, if she's not already, deeply entrenched in his head, it's only a matter of time before even the great Tom Brady, the captain of focus, snaps and just can't take it anymore.
I mean, we've seen Jordan have struggles. We've seen Tiger. These are the greats of the greats that are all about competition and don't care about anything else. We've seen both of them taken down by women. Both of them taken down by women.
Tiger brought a lot more of that on himself.
He did, but still.
Yeah. Well, when you're caught dead to rights, I mean, he really got caught under the What Woman Act, where he's on the phone there, and you could tell. And she's listening, right? She's got his phone tapped because maybe he had received some kind of a threat from, one of the people that wasn't happy that he was allowed to play Augusta National. He was running around with a sheet on his head in Orlando. So, I mean, and believe me, I speak from experience on this because there was a loan shark chasing me for a long time. And, as I was like talking to some other woman, my wife happened to be, she was recording these calls, hoping to catch this guy like threatening me. And, instead, she hears this long conversation about my affections for somebody else. It's true. My father told me this. DeForest don't get away with anything. We get away with nothing. Nothing. We don't even try stuff. I know I'm not getting away with it. All right. So you're saying Tampa Bay, not so hot. Now we don't need to reassess there. They take on the Saints. The Saints will be a home dog. The Saints, survived a life and death scare in their ball game in week number 1. Hardly looked brilliant in the process. But is it good enough at home to beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and knock the Bucs back a peg and into the category of which you speak and have them in, which I did too. I didn't understand why people are going nuts. They are, I think, the second choice to win the Super Bowl at this stage.
Or the NFC
Buccaneers are 7-1. The Bills are down to 5-1, and the Bills looked sensational in week number 1.
The Bills were dominant. The Bills were scary.
So we were wrong about that. We might have been wrong about that.
I will admit that.
We thought the Bills were good, maybe a little bit overrated. We know they, qualified under the knocking on the door theory, which was, teams do that in professional sports. They knock on the door for a couple of years, and usually, the good teams will get over the hump. That didn't happen for the Phoenix Suns, huh? Wow. Was that a disappointment this year when they got knocked out in the second round? Unbelievable. Phoenix Suns had a sensational year. I would have been writing you about Devin Booker all off season had they gone on and won the championship. But Buffalo was knocking on the door. I mean, they were right there last year and, had been showing signs of life ever since they drafted Josh Allen. And he started to mature as a quarterback. They looked great. Will they continue, in that mode? You would have to think yes. And then if you look at the AFC East, they look vastly better than the Miami Dolphins did in their ball game. The Patriots and the Jets look like they can't win a game. In fact, Robert Saleh, who is the second-year coach of the New York Jets, he's already been afflicted with Jet syndrome. Like he's already talking like a loser, which he has been essentially. I mean, he's got Rich Kotite type numbers, and was another one of those guys. Look, there are certain franchises that you go there and you're finished. You're doomed. I mean, if you're drafted by the Jets, there's a pretty good chance you will never evolve as a reasonably talented and successful NFL player. Because even if you had all the ability in the world, even if you were going to be, the second coming of Johnny Unitas, your chances of succeeding being drafted as a Jet quarterback are Blutarski-esque, 0.0. Yep. It's just been that way for a long period of time. I mean, it's insane. And coaches there, wow. They either begin their career there or end their career there, and yet it's a destination where you were either born or destined to die. Adam Gase, does he ever get another job after taking that Jet job? You would have to think. Wow. Well, people didn't think he would get another job after he left the Dolphins, although he had some success here. And there was at least a brief period of time where you thought the light was going to shine on this maneuver where they got Adam Gase, the quarterback guru, who, how many quarterbacks can he ruin? Adam Gase. He had more than his share, right? I mean, he buried as many quarterbacks as Mike Tannenbaum did franchises. Adam Gase, the quarterback whisperer. But Sal is starting to strike out now and say, well, you know what? All you guys that are disparaging the New York Jets right now and ripping us to shreds, you're going to see. You're going to be sorry. You're going to be eating your words.
Like
this was after getting crushed like a grape in week number 1 with more tragic injury news coming their way when they had a weak roster to begin with. And whatever rise to hope you had, are we wrong about that? If you were a Jet fan? Where's Eric on this one? Whatever rise to hope you had that they were going to, evolve a little bit this year, which they should be starting to move a little bit forward. No, that went out the window. Now they were starting Joe Flacco at quarterback. If Zach Wilson is in there, then they make a better showing against the Ravens. I'm not sure. I didn't get to see any of that game, but it was straight up bludgeoning from all accounts. No, so they're bad, and you would have to think that the Bills are looking at 5 to 6 wins in the division, no? Alone, the Buffalo Bills. They just look vastly superior to, certainly the Patriots. The Jets look like they're, could the Jets go unvictorious this year? That's what I'm thinking.
The Jets look like the worst team in football. Even the Bears were supposed to, and then the Bears put it together a nice fourth quarter and beat the Niners. Like, I don't see the Jets doing that. And I like Mark Jackson was spectacular. He had 3 touchdowns, but his numbers were Like, he threw for 57%, which is horrendous, especially in the NFL. And he had barely over 200 yards, was sacked twice, and had an interception. So it wasn't like Lamar Jackson torched him. Like, they aren't good. The Jets are really bad. Oh, my God.
If you thought there was going to be improvement then on the New York Jets roster and their results, then it looks like you were dead wrong after week number 1. I don't know that we'll need to amend that anytime during the season. I'm going to say no to the amendment on that. Supreme Court has decided we're overturning this amendment. The New York Jets will never be good. And Robert Saleh, will he be gone at the end of this year? That's more interesting. Never mind he's going to show you and make you eat your words. I hope he does. You know what? The long-suffering Jet fans deserve better, do they not? I know the people in South Florida hate the New York Jets and would love to see them suffer, and continue to be just the most miserable franchise. But it is incredible how some teams just never are capable of doing any good, and they get stuck in that syndrome, and they can't cycle themselves out of it, even though the league is structured for you to have many ways of improving.
Yes,
and snapping out of these sort of long periods of being awful, and they just can't seem to get it done, no matter how dedicated they are, even though they're in the New York market. Just a horribly run franchise for whatever reason, and Robert Saleh now is showing signs that he's ready to snap. He seemed pretty solid, didn't he? That they lose another very quasi-minority head coach too. Roger Goodell should be watching the situation very carefully. Well, why is it too that these minorities end up with like shit teams all the time?
Oh, that's the thing is, look, Caldwell was with the Lions and had the most success with the Lions of any quarterback and any coach. I'm sorry, and he's yet to get another chance when, like. It was a horrible opportunity. The Lions and the Jets are the two and the Browns, I guess. And even now the Browns, with all this expectation, still aren't good. Like, these franchises are stuck in the mud. These coaches get these bad opportunities. They're going to fail. And then they never get a shot again. Like, it's a vicious cycle.
All right. So I don't know what's going to level off here. The Dolphins, of course, we'll get some answers about the Miami Dolphins this week. So you would have to withhold all judgment until you see what happens in week number 2 against the Baltimore Ravens on the road, a team that a lot of people feel is going to be very good this year. Yep. They naturally went undefeated in the preseason, as they have for like this last 17 years under John Harbaugh. A streak that is probably, one of the most unusual streaks that you could possibly achieve in all of sports, to be undefeated in preseason for like 5 years or something like that. I think it's longer than that, right? 23, 24 games, something along those lines. That's pretty incredible. Now, there were naturally, I don't know that there were lofty expectations. I think people expected them to be a contender, the Baltimore Ravens, but we'll find out. And Tua, very suspect in this ball game, week number 1. In fact, he was exactly what we've seen him be so far, which is, every now and then he gets into a rhythm and you're going, wow, this kid can throw the rock. Yep. And then it makes some very lame, harebrained decisions.
Yep.
And comes within an eyelash, within a whisker of catastrophic results. So, it's one thing. You just don't want to make the bozo play. That's the other thing. If you're your quarterback and, you don't have to necessarily fall into the cliche of being a game manager, which is what a lot of people perceive Tua to be. But, you can't make the catastrophic play when your margin for error is small like that.
Yep.
If you're not going to be capable of making the spectacular play, which once in a while we will see from Tua. He'll throw one over the top, or he'll hit a play like he did on that fourth down play to Jalen Waddle, which went for the touchdown, and what was a huge differential in that game, right? I mean, that kept the dynamic of the scoreboard, kept New England under more pressure than they could handle, and they didn't have the answers. And didn't the whole game. So I don't know. We'll find something out. What do you think? What level of confidence do you have, Mike Lubie Lubitz? Before we talk to David Furones, what level of confidence do you have in the guy that you've been behind solidly all off season, all throughout his first couple of years in the league, and now with this new platform that he has where he's destined for greatness? How confident are you that he can handle the Baltimore Ravens on Sunday?
That's the funny thing is I don't know what to do with the Ravens. Everyone does this thing with Lamar Jackson where they put him on this pedestal, and the Dolphins played him 2 years ago, no, but last year they played him really well. They were the ones that started blitzing him that sort of took him down a bad path the rest of last season. My problem is Tua. I've been the Tua defender. I've stood up for him. I believe in him. And without an offensive line or run game, he looks like the same guy. Now, again, we're counting on him having an offensive line or run game to improve him, but it's not there. And I expect him to rise above it because of what he has around him. My confidence level is low right now. It was only one game, and people were telling me, relax, look at his line. In the end, he didn't have a turnover. In the end, he made that big play, and they did win. And I get it, but he's supposed to rise above that this year. He's supposed to become a great quarterback, and I believed he could. You didn't see that game.
No,
you didn't. And then that scared the living daylights out of me. It's like this dude he made 2 or 3 throws where it was like you didn't have to throw that ball. Just run, tuck it and run. Tuck it, run, and dive. Tuck it, run, and slide. Be Breeze. Be Russell Wilson. You're not Dan Marino. You're not a big dude.
He's not Fran Tarkenton back there either. I mean, he has a tendency to run into the oncoming blitzers.
I don't know. That one game shook me because I was look, I know the line's not great. There's no running game, but you may not get that, man. You may not get that. What are you going to do?
We'll see. I mean, he obviously needs to move forward off of his performance in week number 1, which showed signs of life at different times. But then, the second half, really, I thought was more representative of all the things that people were using to write him off than they were to, be encouraged by the play that he has. So we'll find out. It is weird, though, to hear that excuse used constantly over and over again about NFL play that, nobody played in the preseason, so this is the preseason. And, so what are all these practices? And, we're really going to get some value. We're working in tandem here with the Buccaneers today. What value did that have? I mean, how much do you need to practice? You're a professional football player. You can't have it together in week number 1. Well, 9 penalties here, indicative of the fact that nobody played in the preseason. Well, why didn't they then if you weren't going to be ready for the regular season? That's why they have this 3-game preseason. Injuries galore, though. I mean, I don't know. Is that some people would attribute? I mean, injuries are injuries. I don't think they necessarily have anything to do with the idea that these guys weren't in condition. I don't suspect that was at the root of any of this, because a lot of them were from violent hits. But T.J. Watt, wow, he may be out for the season, for the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's possible. That's ugly. Dak had the surgery, out 8 weeks. You had any number of other significant players that also are going to rack up significant time out of the lineup. So, I mean, the whole idea of keeping your players safe during the preseason, would they be better off if they were conditioned? That's always going to be a debate, to be ready to play. Because, it'd be like a boxer going into a match with no sparring, right?
Exactly.
Haven't taken any of this contact, and all of a sudden you get hit in the face, and guess what? Your nose is in 6 different places. Look like Larry Zonka in there, and it's only round 1. All right, David Furones coming up. I do want to get into this later on. Remind me if I don't, because I think it's ridiculous. It kind of slipped under the radar there with all of the sensational college football and NFL season cranking up in week number 1. But these changes they did it, right? They outlawed the shift in Major League Baseball, which I think is the most preposterous concept I've ever come across in rulemaking in any sport, where the defense is being told where they have to play. It makes zero sense, right? If you can't capitalize on a defense giving you something, then why shouldn't they be able to, go ahead and make you make a fool of yourself?
Look, we can get in this later, but yeah, I get that. See, it feels like the kind of thing that would open the game up a little bit, but that then coach players differently, like make them better at hitting to all fields. Like I heard that expression my entire life, and you never hear that expression anymore. Why can't they hit to all fields? Like how hard is it? Like they're professional baseball players. Like,
anybody that ever was in Little League can, spray it around if you have to, right? You know how to do it. Right-handers, I actually was better at hitting the ball in the opposite field than I was, as a pull hitter, because it was just a natural, for some reason, stroke for me. And yet, I mean, you could get up there. I'm not like anywhere near, a switch hitter, but everybody's taking a few at bats left-handed. If you're a righty, and you could even slap the ball, the opposite way, not even being a lefty, right? I mean, it's so simple. It's not funny. So, but how can you dictate how a team can play defense? You can't. I mean, it's un-American. It goes against I mean, how can you tell somebody, listen, you have to put all your guys on the right side? I mean, it's insane, but they're going to make somebody. You have to have at least 2 fielders on each side of second base now, and they can't, be on the outfield grass either. They have to have both of their feet inside the dirt part of the infield. That's insane, huh? Why not just put robots out there? I don't get it. I mean, this should be on the hitter to beat the shift, not on the fielders to stay in a position where it's advantageous for the hitter. That's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, it defies everything that the whole spirit of sport is all about. Right? I mean, if a guy has no backhand in tennis, you're going to hit to it all the time.
Yes, pound it. Get it back.
You're going to get like weak responses all the time. I mean, so should they make a rule there that because the guy has no backhand that you have to hit to his forehand at least half the time? Get out of here. It's insane.
Look, I in football, they've changed stuff defensively to open up the game. They've also changed it for safety purposes, but they still let you play some semblance of defense. Like I don't look, I'm all for them trying to make the game better because the analytics have totally ruined it where they're not trying to play baseball anymore. They're just trying to play home run derby. So I get that, but it's still not right.
Stupid. It makes no sense. It'd be like saying you had to play 2 guys deep all the time in the secondary.
I'm telling you have to play a zone.
It's crazy, or that you had to line up certain guys in a basketball game. That you had to take the biggest schmenk, your worst defensive player, and put him on Steph Curry. How can you do that? They should be allowed to do whatever they want defensively, and it's up to the hitter to be able to defeat that and make the team look. You always would say keep them honest, right? Yep. Once in a while, you throw a bunch of short passes, and then you throw one over the top there just to keep them honest. Yep. That's as traditional as anything in sport. And if a team wants to, what if they just wanted to play all their guys on the infield? Why wouldn't they be allowed to? Right? They just bring all their outfielders up because they know the guy's going to hit a ground ball. He's going against some guy that has a vicious splitter. And, they just play 10 guys on the infield if you want to. Then it would be up to the hitter to hit it over their heads, would it not? You're going to tell the outfielders how deep or shallow they have to play? Is that next? I can't imagine. I know it should lead to more base hits, but I mean, it's a sad way to go about it. All right, David Furones coming up next here from the Sun-Sentinel. We'll dive into some Dolphins football and whatever else we can bring up about the NFL that would be relevant to the conversation. Come back with more here on the Defo Show. Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubie Lubitz. Bury the queen already. Please put this woman in the ground. Out of respect. Out of respect, Lubie, they should just bury this woman already. All right? People are just going crazy for this. 12 hours. Can you imagine waiting 12 hours in line and then you walk by a guy's going, yeah, that's her. That's insane. All right, back with more. Tradition be damned on this one. I mean, just bury this poor woman. Back with more in a moment. Now that. Date 19.
Folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched, steaks hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
You can't fake caring. Women can sense this immediately. You don't really care. You didn't really want to do any of this.
We now return to the Defo Show.
I think she's in his head, and that Brady will snap eventually. The epitome of cool. Tom Brady doesn't care about anything. Nothing rattles the guy. Doesn't matter. You could send a pack of lions after him in the pass rush, and he would still just stand there in the pocket and flick one to Gronkowski, and the guy would take it to the end zone for a touchdown. Epitome of cool. But once a woman's in your head, and you guys out there know this, and it starts to seep into your work or things that you do away from the home, you're finished. You're fucked. I mean, that's as simply as I could put it. So would it happen even to somebody, with the mental strength of a Tom Brady, who's capable of doing this crazy diet, which he looks emaciated, doesn't he?
He looks like garbage.
What happened to this guy? Somebody throw that man a sandwich. Yeah. Looks like you're going a PGA tour, this guy. Maybe the live tour at 45. That's, where, when you're in golf purgatory, that's where you go to pick up millions. All right, we welcome to the show, and this is great. We love this guy. And he's the beat writer for the Miami Dolphins here, South Florida Sun-Sentinel, doing a fine job on that. Previously, we got to know him when he was covering the Miami Hurricanes, and I wanted to kind of start there because I'm sure he still is observing the Hurricanes with keen and acute interest, even though very busy, with all this Dolphin stuff. We welcome David Furones to the program. David, how are you, my friend?
Hey, I'm doing well, guys. Getting through week one here. So exciting time, new football season, and two football teams in South Florida that have put together 3 wins so far. Not bad.
All right. Well, before we get into the Dolphins, which we want to go into details since you're on top of that right now, but Jimbo loses to Appalachian State goes in there and beats the number 6 team in the country. The Hurricanes, when you looked at their schedule, it was cupcake, and now this. And you thought, well, this will be a litmus test, some kind of a game that we can identify where the program is at right now and possibly even get an indication as to where it might be going. Now Texas A&M doesn't look so formidable, even though they were ranked as high as number 6. I don't know where they ended up this week, but obviously they had to fall significantly. What do you think? Should the Hurricanes, they're underdogs, 5 and a hook in this game, should they not be favored to go in there and at least be able to do the same kind of things as Appalachian State did? Or are they in the same category as Appalachian State at this stage?
Yeah, conventional wisdom would tell you, okay, and Texas A&M wasn't that good, and actually I think they dropped completely out of the top 25, if I'm not mistaken. Now, if you looked at it as these teams are exactly
what we went into the season thinking they were, and then Texas A&M just had a bad outing, and that's what happened against Appalachian State, which does also have a history of being able to knock off these Power 5 conference teams. Then, okay, maybe you do still look at it the same way. Now, Texas A&M now is going to give Miami their best shot for sure, coming off a loss to a team like App State, and maybe they were looking ahead. Maybe Miami was also looking ahead kind of in that first half when the noon kickoff at home, when it's hot out, and they didn't get off to a fast start, and then finally did show up by the end of the half and then going into the second half. But Texas A&M, the way they did it, it ended up costing them the whole game, if that indeed was the case, then looking ahead. So, yeah, you figured A&M was going to give Miami the best shot. Miami was going to give A&M the best shot. We know both teams were probably looking at this game as kind of the early litmus test for each one. So it'll still be something exciting and worth watching on Saturday night.
I envisioned myself at a press conference, Nick Saban after his 1-point win over Texas, and I guess this result wasn't known at the time, but had it been, how great would it have been to ask Nick if he felt any empathy for his friend Jimbo Fisher for losing to a non-Power 5 conference school, as formidable as Appalachian State has been in that category of pulling off upsets. Still, you would have to think that Nick took a special delight. It had to be all he could do to suppress his laughter after he saw that result.
That's right. I didn't even think of that angle of that whole offseason drama between Saban and Jimbo Fisher. But he must have gotten some internal satisfaction out of that. Although Nick Saban would probably never admit that publicly or say it much in a press conference to give that opponent who he has to face later on in the season any type of ammunition. So, but he must have received some kind of.
Can you imagine? Yeah, I mean, it's like taking your arch rival and seeing him fall flat on his face. And it had to be especially delightful for old Nick, even more so than those Aflac checks when they come in for that really bad acting job that he does. All right, let's get into the Miami Dolphins. David Furones, Sun-Sentinel, beat writer for the Miami Dolphins. They pull off a victory. Many people expected it. I thought that they would handle the New England Patriots because I didn't think New England was very good. They managed to look good in spots in the first half offensively, but not overwhelmingly so. We did kind of get an indication of what Mike McDaniel was thinking in terms of how he's going to use these two speedballs there, Waddle and Tyreek Hill. I thought that was very encouraging. And then we saw some real suspect plays by Tua in the second half. The defense keeps him in the game, even had a defensive score. What were some of your impressions? I mean, what were some of the important things, if there were any, to take away from week number one with the Miami Dolphins, aside from the fact that they won the game?
Yeah, I think Mike McDaniel said it best when he said, this is still the defense's team. So as much as there has been all this hype over the revamped offense, this defense that has been kept intact, has remained together through this offseason, that really anchored the team for those 8 wins in the last 9 games. Granted, some of them against a lot of suspect quarterbacks, backup quarterbacks, and overall not great offenses last year. This team still leans on its defense, and you saw it with they're giving up a little bit of a drive to start the game. Xavier Howard makes the big play one-on-one to tip the ball, and Javon Holland is right there for the interception. No points given up, and you force a turnover. It ends up in 3 points the other way shortly thereafter. Later on, second quarter, you got Brandon Jones coming off untouched on a safety blitz, which they didn't blitz as much as they have last year. We're one of the most aggressive defenses, but used it in spots and used it very effectively in that specific spot. Brandon Jones comes through, strip sack. Mac Jones didn't see him coming. Bounces right to Melvin Ingram for a touchdown. You score on defense. Then second half, undrafted rookie corner, Kader Kohu coming through, has 1 fourth down pass breakup, has another play where he forces a fumble that was just caught by Nelson Aguilar. Jalen Phillips lands on the football. So 3 turnovers. The offense, while sure there were some plays where you saw maybe Tua Tagovailoa short hop a throw. He was overall accurate, but certainly multiple examples of throws where you wondered either what was he thinking or how was he that much off target. So he'll have to get some things corrected. And the running game wasn't everything that you would have hoped for coming in, with Mike McDaniel known for that. in his time in San Francisco. But overall, offense was good enough to win the game. They got the ball to Tyreek Hill in space plenty of times. He had 12 targets. He had 8 catches, another rushing attempt. Jalen Waddle had 4 catches. I know Mike McDaniel said he wanted to get him the ball more, wanted to get Mike Gesicki certainly the ball more. He only had 1 catch. And Waddle, of course, had the big fourth down conversion for the touchdown right before half. So overall, offensively good enough to win and didn't turn the ball over while the defense got those 3 takeaways. When you win 3-0 in the turnover margin, that's usually going to be good enough to win you a football game.
And look, David, we talked with your cohort, your co-Dolphins coverer at Sun-Sentinel, Chris Perkins, last week, and he said very much similar to what McDaniel said and what we saw, that the defense, they brought back everyone and the DC. So obviously the defense is going to be ahead of the offense. It's a brand new offense with a lot of new pieces. So it's going to take them time to get where they think, and a lot of us think they can get. True. But what we saw game 1 was very reminiscent of what we saw the last 2 years. An offense that was clunky, a running game that didn't work, an offensive line that struggled pretty much the entire game, and a quarterback who is known to have good anticipation and be accurate and wasn't anticipating anything. Like, I like Tua, but he looked lost a lot of that game and almost had 2 really stupid turnovers that would have been totally on him. Even at the end, when he threw that ball that was incomplete, they got a first down eventually, but he didn't have to throw it. He had a lane to run and slide. So from what you've seen of Tua and been around with this team, what did you notice of that game and what do you take from it for Tua the rest of the season?
Certainly, yeah. Tua has a lot to work on and improve on going forward. It was still just week 1. He had a new offense, new offensive line, which had to shuffle a lot throughout the game too. Austin Jackson, right tackle, he went down, and then so they put in a backup tackle, Greg Little. Then there was one series where he goes to the sideline before returning later. They put right guard Robert Hunt at right tackle while inserting Robert Jones, and then they have the same thing on the other side with Teron Armstead missing a couple plays. So there was a lot of shuffling. Now, even before there was all the offensive line shuffling, there was still a lot of pressures getting back there, affecting the quarterback. And so ultimately, he got the ball to his receivers in space. He made the big fourth down conversion that resulted in the touchdown that Jalen Waddle took after the catch with the run. You get the ball to Tyreek Hill in space, and he's going to make you look good. So at the end of the day, then he did that, and there was one play where Tyreek Hill saved him from what could have easily been an interception. There was a couple of other plays where the Patriots probably saved him from not being opportunistic at opportunities that Tua gave them to force the takeaway. But at the end of the day, he didn't turn the ball over, and the Dolphins were indeed up 3-0 in that battle, and ended up winning the game. So yeah, ultimately it was good enough to win, but still left a lot to be desired from Tua Tagovailoa.
David Furones, the beat writer for the South Florida Sun-Sentinel, with us here on the Defo Show. Jeff DeForest and Mike Lubie. You might be too young to remember Robert Stack, the actor Robert Stack, as the host of Unsolved Mysteries. Yeah, I mean, it's probably still around, David. But anyway, he used to come out of like a tunnel of smoke there as he was introducing the show. And I keep envisioning Stack coming out with the Miami Dolphins as they introduce their offense and asking a question. What happened to Mike Gesicki? How did he fall into disfavor, this guy? I mean, last year it looked like, maybe we had something there at the tight end position. I don't know if he was Kelsey or any of these other monsters, but, looked like he would be, somebody that you could count on to be a catalyst on the offense. What happened there? I mean, does he even sniff the field anymore? Where's Mike Gesicki?
Well, the thing about Mike Gesicki is while he is listed as a tight end, he rarely actually played the tight end position in the previous offense. He was most often lined up out wide, either in the slot or all the way out on the boundary as a wide receiver, actually. So it was really kind of a big wide receiver and a tight end who really does not get active in the run blocking game at all. He's just not known for that. He can go up and make contested catches as a possession receiver, and run routes, but not really a traditional inline blocking tight end. So now in this new offense that Mike McDaniel brought over from the San Francisco 49ers and new tight ends coach John Embry, he also came over from San Francisco with McDaniel. they need the tight end to be able to do both things. They need the tight end to make catches and also be active in the run blocking and this wide zone rushing scheme where so often a lot of the runs are going to go to the edge, and the tight end is pivotal for that. And they had George Kittle all those years in San Francisco. So Mike Gesicki in that regard is no George Kittle. So he's even described it as a new position for himself. The way he's described it through the preseason when he got extended playing time, which was surprising for a franchise tag player to play as much as he did in the preseason. And then now, surprising to see him play as little as he did in week 1 of the regular season. He played 25 snaps, which amounts to, I believe, 40-something or 30, or even below 40% of the offensive snaps in that game. So Mike McDaniel did say yesterday when I asked that he was surprised by the final results of his playing time and his targeting, which was just one target for one reception for 1 yard, that he expected to get him more involved in the passing game, and then kind of the flow of the game went in a different direction, and they were getting the ball to Tyreek Hill a lot. He said he also wanted to get the ball to Jalen Waddle more often and Raheem Mostert in the run game. Now, this offense does have a lot of weapons, as we mentioned all those guys, and you have Chase Edmonds and Cedric Wilson in the slot. So now there are more people to contend with for these targets. And week 1, it just turned out it wasn't heavily for Mike Gesicki, but Mike McDaniel did say he went in with a game plan that intended to get him the ball more. It just didn't work out that way week 1. So we'll see how that progresses going forward, if indeed he does become more active in the offense going forward.
So it was McDaniel's first game, and there was a lot of expectations, a lot of questions about him because he was going. We joked last week, if you were doing coaching, they do the checklist: quarterback, running back, receiver, defense. If you were doing that coaching, you'd give 4 checks to Belichick versus a guy who's brand new and young. It seems like he hung in there. As questionable as I got as a fan, when you look at the whole of the game, the game was never really at risk for a guy that's in his first game. What did you take away from that game for McDaniel as his first game going up against Bill Belichick?
Certainly, I think the moment wasn't too big for him. I think he stepped up to the challenge. He wasn't overwhelmed by thinking, oh boy, this is Bill Belichick, who was third on the all-time wins list on the other side, who has 6 Super Bowl rings, and I'm just a little old me in my first time leading a team as a head coach. He went and he took it. And it was exhibited with his decision that Tyreek Hill said he needed a wheelbarrow for his nether regions after that 4th down conversion to Jalen Waddle that resulted in a touchdown 18 seconds before halftime. And that essentially put the game away. It was 17-0 at that point. And the way the Patriots were looking, especially offensively against the Miami defense, you didn't picture the Patriots coming up with 17 points and a half. Turned out it was actually over once the Dolphins got to 10 because the Patriots ended up with 7 points on the game. So really, yeah, like you said, the game was never really in danger that much. So I do want to see Mike McDaniel get into the first time where he does have to make late game decisions on his own, which he's had so many mental reps of, that which he's always made a point to speak of, that he has taken so many mental reps in all his years as an assistant to prepare himself for such moments. But yeah, it'll be interesting once you get to games like Baltimore, Buffalo, Cincinnati that are coming up. These are all going to be very challenging games to win. If they're coming down to the end, I want to see him make some key decisions late under pressure, and that'll be a real test and telling as well. So, which I do expect he'll be prepared for.
Well, he couldn't bungle it any worse than this Denver coach did last night against Seattle. I don't know if you saw that, but for a 64-yard field goal attempt, holy Tom Dempsey, as opposed to having your $250 million quarterback try and complete a 3-yard play. I mean, that seemed ludicrous. And let the clock run all the way down, yeah.
Yeah, you could have gotten a stop because you had 3 timeouts if you didn't end up
imagine
converting the 4th down. But right. So then you throw that away and you put it all on one play, and then instead of your quarterback, you go for a 64-yard field goal, and yeah, we saw the result.
Why don't we try to establish a new NFL record while we're at it here and have this guy do something that's never been done before? I guess the record is slightly longer, right? But, it still seemed like a real bozoic move there, right? When you have, you're moving the ball on those dink passes the entire game. So McDaniel really wasn't pressured to make a lot of really difficult decisions, or so it seemed. And yet, as you said, he more than held his own in the matchup there, coaching matchup with Bill Belichick. Belichick probably didn't have as good of a roster as the Miami Dolphins, and the Dolphins had the home field in that game. What I thought I saw, maybe I'm reading too much into this, it seems like the players not only generally like Mike McDaniel, but they have already developed a little bit of affection for him. I don't know. Do you see, if you would see Brian Flores get doused or Adam Gase get doused with a kaleidoscope of Gatorade colors and just kind of, be, sort of in symmetry with his players in terms of their feelings about the game and their happiness for him winning his first game. Do you sense that maybe he does have a little bit of a different bond working so far with the players? Now, that may change if they lose 5 in a row, like you said, but it seems like for right now, I mean, what he's doing is working.
Certainly, yeah. He definitely has a different vibe. And, I wouldn't picture any players coming near tossing some Gatorade on Brian Flores. Maybe we'll have to look back. I don't know. Did that ever happen in that 2019 first win? Which took.
I would say no. Yeah.
I don't believe that did happen.
He might have cut somebody for doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Honestly, well, yeah, especially on that roster.
Yeah.
We're bringing in new guys every Tuesday and then starting them on Sunday.
Exactly.
So, I definitely don't see players being as comfortable doing that with a lot of other coaches. So, Mike McDaniel's predecessor included in Brian Flores, and especially some of the like Tyreek Hill being as comfortable saying everything he says in the media or on his podcast. And I feel like some of that probably wouldn't fly. A lot of that wouldn't fly if Brian Flores was still coaching this team. The disciplinarian that he is and the way he wants he'd probably view it as distractions and try to limit it as much as possible. And Tyreek Hill in that regard, he actually put his podcast on pause to focus on the season. So, his head is in the right place anyway. But yeah, you totally see how comfortable these players are being themselves. That was one thing that when Tyreek Hill even came here initially, his first press conference, he said his first interaction with Mike McDaniel was him telling him, just be you. I want you to just be you. And Tyreek has certainly done that pretty much every time he has a mic in front of him and he's spoken to the media.
Oh, very exciting player. Brian Flores at a press conference, or from a press conference standpoint, made Randy Shannon, the old coach, look like Rex Ryan. I mean, it wasn't fun to be around this guy, and I can understand why, because he was feeling all of that heat from Stephen Ross telling him, "You better lose every game, kid, or you're not going to last long." With this franchise. All right, we see where it's quite possible that the Jets really do stink again. I know they had Joe Flacco in there for Zach Wilson, so that didn't help them any. But nonetheless, they get handled by the Baltimore Ravens in week number 1. We saw the Patriots really not offer up much. Plus, Mac Jones may have an injury problem with a back injury, and that's not going to be anything that helps them in future weeks, if not this week. And the Buffalo Bills look great. So where does that leave the Miami Dolphins? I mean, what are they playing for in the AFC East?
Yeah, and I wondered about that Mac Jones injury. It was kind of curious to me because he played the whole game. Now, I know sometimes there are injuries where adrenaline gets you through the game and then it affects you in the week of practice and you're questionable going forward, whatever the case may be. But I found it curious that he was able to play a whole football game and then that his back injury was the reason why he couldn't speak to reporters. It just seems curious to me. But especially after a game where they lost like that and the offense didn't do much of anything. In the AFC East, it's still Buffalo's division. The Buffalo just appears to be leaps and bounds ahead of you could almost say every team in the NFL, and they are the Super Bowl favorites for a reason. So, and we saw that on Thursday Night Football to open the season against the Rams and the Super Bowl champs, and they really laid it on them. So the way I look at this season is, all right, so Buffalo's going to take the division. Go ahead, that's fine. Earn one of these wild card spots as an AFC, in a very competitive AFC. There's a lot of teams that will be vying for those. Win some of these games against your conference opponents that are also contending for it. If you can get to something like a 10-7 around there, that's actually the season prediction that I had in the Sun-Sentinel for the Dolphins record, then I think that'll get you in because a lot of other teams are going to be beating each other up, even though there are so many good teams in the AFC. It's not like they can all go for 11 wins, 12 wins. They have to lose some to one another. So I feel like that would get you one of those 3 wildcard spots, and you see where it goes from there, depending on the matchup. If you don't have to face a really good team in a cold environment, maybe the Dolphins could finally get a playoff win for the first time since 2000. But I think,
I got shivers.
Very realistically, though, very realistically, a playoff appearance for the first time since 2016. But it's looking like it would be in a wild card spot, not winning the division and having home field in the first round and whatnot. And of course, a lot was made about Dolphins and Patriots for second in the division. It was good for the Dolphins. They really needed to win this home game early in the year when the heat and humidity is in their favor at Hard Rock Stadium, because you still do have to face the Patriots on New Year's Day in Foxborough, and those will be some frigid temperatures, and they still have to play at Buffalo in December, and that's going to be some conditions there. So really important to get this first win, and then especially out of this first 4-game stretch where you have the Ravens next, Buffalo, Cincinnati on a short week with travel. So this was almost as much of a must-win as there can be week 1, and the Dolphins did handle it.
And you always favor the Dolphins in a schwitz fest. I mean, if it's going to be schwitzy out there, the Dolphins are going to be good. And as you said, those are some treacherous games looming on the schedule with the Patriots and the Buffalo Bills in December and January. David, always a pleasure. Enjoying your coverage in the Sun-Sentinel. Always appreciate you coming on the show. Now, are you involved in this podcast thing the Sun-Sentinel's doing with Perk? Did I hear something along those lines? Yeah. Oh, very nice. Now, how can people catch that?
Yeah, Dolphins Deep Dive with Perk. That's the new so Chris Perkins, of course, now our Dolphins columnist that you've had on with Omar Kelly moving on. So X's and Omar exits, enter Dolphins Deep Dive with Perk. So I'll be on with them sometimes. Our initial episode last week, we had both myself and columnist Dave Hyde.
Nice.
Wow.
So we'll
all-star
kind of
cast.
With So a big debut with all 3 of us on there, and then we'll kind of alternate with between myself and Dave Hyde on who's with Perk hosting it. He'll have some other guests as well, just from around football to talk to Dolphins, not necessarily from the Dolphins, but just anyone who has some insight that they can share. So it's an exciting podcast. I'll be on later today. So you can catch that at sunsentinel.com.
Nice.
All right. Sounds great. Always a pleasure, my friend. Great stuff as always. We thank you so much for taking time to get up with us, and we'll talk again real soon, I hope.
Sounds good, guys. Thanks.
Appreciate it, David.
All right. David Furones. Good kid, man. He's really evolved here on the local sports journalism scene, coming from Hurricanes coverage to now being a beat writer for the Miami Dolphins. Pretty lofty position, right? I mean, if you were in the newspaper business, you want to ascend to those kind of spots, no? Lubie, where you got like a beat writer's job, you're traveling with the team. It's a big deal. I don't know that I would want that assignment necessarily. At one time I did. But all this minutia would probably bother me.
If I was young and I didn't mind traveling and I didn't mind live tweeting every snap, it would be amazing. Once you get to a certain age, you don't want to do all the traveling. First of all, they travel a lot. And you're right. Like when I read their Twitters, it's fine, but it's like I wouldn't want to do this.
No, it's too much. Yeah. Joe Blow was 2 pounds overweight today. So he's going to be fined $300. I don't give a shit about that. I just don't. The most serious, affront to what you really need in terms of information comes with the arguments about the potential breakdown of minutes for Heat players.
Oh, God.
Right? When they get into that stuff.
That's my favorite Ira.
The beat writers, yeah, Ira, man. He's Scoop gets into it too, and I mean, they both do it very well. I'm not. I mean, they're both great at it, but
Yep.
I mean, to the average sports fan, I mean, is it really something compelling that you're thinking, wow, I really, I need to clarify something in my own mind. Is this guy going to get 8 or 10 minutes, and is he taking 2 minutes away from Goran Dragic? It's like, who cares, man? It's a basketball game. Let's watch it. See what happens. See if anybody can make a shot. And if they take anything from inside of 3-point range anytime in the first half. All right, we're coming back with more here in a moment. Jimmy Johnson's Big Show. We love talking about that. And we're looking to make arrangements to get down there. I know we say this all the time, but this time it's happening. And Tommy Fox was all over it. John Kajemi, of course. You saw John. He was on the show yesterday. And he's all in on this thing. And it's going to be great because it's a perfect place. I mean, if you're looking for a place to just unwind, have a great time. I mean, have a wonderful Keys experience. And it is true. The minute you get out of Florida City and get onto that overseas highway, don't you feel like there's been some kind of transformation, a metamorphosis in your life, Lubie? And your whole vibe, I mean, inside and out just changes. It's great. You want to turn the AC off and roll the windows down. Well, maybe not that, but nonetheless, I mean, and then you get into Key Largo and you really feel like you've stepped into another universe.
I was going to say,
Henry
for me,
David
at the
Thoreau,
moment I park in that parking lot, for some reason, there's an automatic, it's like, okay.
It's beautiful, right? What a great Keys resort this is. I mean, you can go and pay a lot of pricey, type of, tabs, if you go to some of these other places like the Ocean Reef, and this gives you that kind of quality. I mean, and in the most casual of settings, and just beautiful the way they've laid out the grounds there. You see them on the aerial shots. I mean, those are real. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill. That's not some touch-up job that we put here to entice you to go, and then you get down there and it looks nothing like the brochure. It's a dump. No, hardly the case. And the food and drink just absolutely off the chart, absolutely delicious. The widest variety, whether you're talking about the freshest of seafood, those custom-made pizzas, including the one that we have to get Mike Mayo to try, the Italian fisherman. I bet he orders one the minute he sits down, right?
Yeah.
We don't even get a drink yet. And he's already, hey, let me have one of those. Italian fisherman.
Yep.
Which is a work of art, man. You don't know whether to eat it or just keep taking pictures of it and putting them up on Let's Eat South Florida. That's how beautiful of a thing it is. But wow, once you sink your teeth into it, absolutely fantastic. And that's indicative of all the offerings there on the menu, including Lubie, like a giant pile of pork nachos.
Yeah, great.
I really have to schlep down to the Keys to eat some nachos. Fantastic, unbelievable. So forget about that pit stop for those overfried conch fritters at Alabama Jack's. It might be traditional. Look, it's probably a really nice place, but Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill should be your first stopping point once you get into Key Largo, and it can be a staying point too if you check out the accommodations. Beautiful, man, all the way around. Live music going there all day long, Saturday and Sunday. Service by the pool. The service is impeccable. This isn't like you feel like you're on the border of being in the Bahamas there. Where, can I get a drink here? Oh, you're closed? Oh, okay. Why'd you tell me that an hour ago?
Exactly.
Right? The guy's just been polishing the bar.
Exactly.
And he never turns around. You don't want to be an asshole. And it turns out he was being an asshole. Didn't tell you that they were closed. No, you don't get that there. I mean, it's really top notch. I mean, like 5-star service. Absolutely fantastic. With a lot of attention to detail. And they aim to please it. Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill, mile marker 104 on the Overseas Highway in Key Largo. All right, we'll come back, wrap things up. Another edition of the Defo Show. Literally flying by here today, Lubie. Unreal. Having a good time with you guys. Thanks so much for tuning in on South Florida Live. Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubie Lubitz. Returning with more in a moment. Now that.
The time.
It's like Murderers Row on that podcast, huh? You got Ferronis, Dave Hyde, and Chris Perkins.
Yeah, nice trio.
You weren't tuning in. It's 8:53. Ponies in Style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant. And you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style. And you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
Hey folks, Tony Segreto here. You know, since day one, Catholic Health Services has been part of Old School. And since we've started letting people know about them, it's changed their lives. You see, Catholic Health Services, while being recognized as one of the top places for stroke rehab in the country, it's also about a group of people who not just excel in what they do, from the doctors to the nurses to the therapists, on and on and on. It's how they do what they do every single day that separates them from the pack. They do it with a passion, unmatched, and the inclusion of family in every step of the process. Trust me when I tell you this. If you want the best, unmatched rehab with a special group of skilled, caring people, there is truly only one place, and that one place is Catholic Health Services.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation location, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. Their hours have changed a little bit. Monday through Thursday from 3:30 to 10, and Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 11:30 to 10. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
You know what I'm gonna do? Because you don't ever give me a face shake. You know that? So I'm gonna go and let you talk to Victor Ortiz, all right? I'm through. They put somebody else up and give me an interview.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
You never give me a fair shake. HBO needs to fire you. You don't know about boxing. You ain't you not.
I wish I was 50 years younger and I'd kick your ass.
The modern day odd couple, Defo and Lubie, are on now. It is, of course, the Defo Show.
Haven't seen Larry Merchant surface anywhere. Did he check out? Larry Merchant. I want to say he's still alive. Larry
I think
Merchant.
he's alive, but he just doesn't work. I mean, remember, HBO doesn't do boxing anymore, and
No.
The Zone wasn't.
Well, they had kind of gotten rid of Larry Merchant, turned him out to pasture there because Mayweather may have been right about a couple of things. Although I always liked Larry Merchant, and he was a brilliant sports writer in the New York area. What was he? Was he a Post guy, a Daily News? Larry Merchant.
Boxing. I didn't know him as a writer. I've always liked him. He just got a little old.
Yeah, no, he was one of the solid New York sports writers, very, very well respected for a long, long time. And also, people don't notice, but he was an early investor in the group that started and launched Joe Frazier's professional career, Cloverleaf. I don't know if you remember this. They got a bunch of businessmen together, and Merchant had some money there with Joe Frazier, who eventually rose to the point where he was making millions of dollars at a time where $1 million was really $1 million. Mike Louie Lewitz, where you didn't have people sneering at $250 million and saying, "You cheap bastards, you expect me to work for that? For peanuts." But if I am paying a guy $250 million over a period of time and I own the Denver Broncos, I am firing that coach for not going for the fourth down play. Immediately, I just, you know what, if that's the kind of bozoic decision you're going to make in your very first game, then get the fuck out of here. Just go.
The funny thing is, I become Mr. Conservative guy at the end of a game because I'm scared to death. But people will be happy with aggressive going wrong than conservative going wrong. Like, at least if you're aggressive, it's like you tried. Like, especially with Russell Wilson. What's the point of having Russell Wilson if you're not going to give him the ball? Like, you might as well have
in the middle of the field there. I mean, they had a zillion options. They supposedly have all these weapons here. Russell Wilson was going to take advantage of that the previous quarterback, Drew Lock, wasn't able to do. And all of a sudden, this offense is going to light it up. I mean, but I mean, the odds of kicking the 64-yard field goal and versus, I mean, making I think it was like 4th and 4. I want to say 4th and 4. It was not a long distance to go. Yeah.
I saw 4th and 5 when I saw people talking about it.
All right. So what? I mean, any pass that you complete is going to have a shot to go 5 yards, even if it's behind the line of scrimmage. I mean, that's the way the game was going at the time. And the Seattle defense is not supposedly very good. I mean, that had to be something, right? If you're Pete Carroll, aren't you reading some of these synopsis on the Seattle Seahawks and their game going against the Broncos, that the defense of the Seattle Seahawks was so bad that Russell Wilson was going to end up owning the city of Seattle if he doesn't already. And that was that. Russell Wilson, what was this outfit he was wearing? I mean, I guess it was classy, but didn't he look like he was going to lead you to a table for two at Joe Stonecrams or something? I mean, what was that?
These are weird. I never said
No,
he
you don't have to. You don't have to slip me any money. You're good to go.
Exactly. People are trying to tip him.
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised they didn't have a tip jar up there when he was doing the press conference. He doesn't need the money. But wow, I mean, I can't believe that you wouldn't take a shot. That's ridiculous. Not to at least give this guy one pass play, and he had 50 seconds left. Who knows what could have happened? Well, we'll never know because the guy wimped out and made one of the. I mean, that just seemed like a very improbable result that he was going to get a 64-yard field goal in that spot. When I don't know what was the guy's career long, like 38. No,
Well,
the guy
he
has a monster leg, and he almost made it. So
as a coach, you have
worked.
to realize, okay, if I go Wilson and he doesn't get it, the blame will go on Wilson. They're not going to blame me. I should have given it to Wilson. They're going to blame Russell. Like, why would
if he doesn't get it, he doesn't get it. It happens.
And no one's going to blame him. Now the whole world's skewering him because he overthought it. And these coaches do that time and time again, and I don't get it.
I couldn't believe that the time is clicking off the clock there and ticking away. And Aikman and Buck are stunned. They don't have any idea what this guy's doing. And you would think they'd be screaming, "Hey, call a timeout!" Right? You have 3 timeouts. Why would you let the clock run down? And then it became apparent that he was going to wait this, the play clock all the way down to the final second, and then have as little time left in the game as possible to attempt this ridiculous field goal. Just insane. He would have been better off running a Statue of Liberty play there. People would have had more respect for him. All right, a lot of fun being with you all morning long. Thanks so much for tuning in. We're going to do it again later on today at 12 o'clock with Mike Mayo and a Mike Mayo Lunchbox. I don't know. Is Mayo going to dwell on the fact that he's having a colonoscopy tomorrow? Because he's liable to be very cranky on the show today. Because I guess
he's fine today. I think tomorrow could be a lot of fun.
No, he'll be fine, man. I mean, it really is. I remember there was such fear of having this procedure done, the colonoscopy.
Yes.
Because everybody's like, well, and let's face it, the day of preparation is not particularly pleasant.
No,
you're drinking milk of magnesia all day and sitting on the toilet with the squirts.
And can't eat.
Now, is he going to weigh in after this, whole preparation day before the surgery tomorrow and count that as his?
That's what Andy told him to do that. Andy's like, you should just do the stuff. Do the weigh-in. I'm sure you'll be like 215 pounds, and then call it.
Because I think we're going to take him to the Fish Shack. It's a place he hasn't been.
100%. And I haven't been in a while. I love that place.
Yeah, no, that's a great spot. All right, well, we'll find out. Mike Mayo and the Lunchbox today, 12 o'clock here. South Florida Live. Always a lot of fun being on there with Mike. Although he's constantly disparaging to the elderly, as if he wasn't getting old himself.
Young. That's what I don't do it at all. I actually give you credit. You live a lot younger than I do. I'm an old man. I was in bed by 9:30 last night. You do a lot more than I do.
No, I was out there hacking it around on the tennis court. Although for some reason, can you get the carpal tunnel from masturbation or?
Jesus.
No, because my wrist is very sore this morning. I haven't played tennis in a couple of weeks. And I'm beginning to think it's something. This is what happens when you get old. It turns out it really is something. All the times that you thought, oh, shoot, I must have this or I must have that. And it was nothing, right? You had nothing. And I'm not really a hypochondriac. I can tell when I'm getting sick, but I will say this for the COVID vaccine. I think it wards off all disease. I really do. I probably won't be able to make the show tomorrow because I'll be under the weather, but I haven't been sick like a day since this COVID. Nothing. I mean, absolutely zero. It has never been even slightly out of sorts from a health standpoint since the COVID vaccine. So what do you make of that, Lubie?
I don't know. I think we're keeping it away from people, but that's a whole nother thing.
All right. Well, those of you that don't want to go out there and get it. And COVID's still going around. My son had a bout with COVID just last week.
Yeah, it's there.
Ago.
It's just
he had a vaccine. It knocked him out for a couple of days.
I mean, it may, even if you get it bad now, it takes you out for a few days, and it's like the flu. That's what it's become. I mean,
yeah.
As long as you're vaccinated with all the stuff.
Yeah, you're not ending up in a body bag like all these people are. I mean, 1 million people checked out.
Hospitals, the whole thing.
Unbelievable. All right, we will see you later on there. Mike Mayo's Lunchbox, 12 o'clock today for Mike Lubie Lubitz. A lot of fun being with you. Thanks to David Furones for joining us. Tomorrow, Old School with Tony Secreto. That's brought to you by Texas Roadhouse Restaurants, Catholic Health Services. And Tony, I mean, he must have had a blast watching these games, huh? What do you think?
And he
loves this. Yeah. And then you have Florida State, Louisville. Florida State favored on the road against Louisville, a team that looked horrible in their first game, but bounced back nicely in their second game and looked pretty good. So that's an interesting matchup here because we find out if Florida State is – are they for real, Lubie? Are they for real?
We'll see.
They have to win this game then. And that would consolidate, the fact that they won last week or 2 weeks ago in fluke-like fashion where, they ended up getting an extra point blocked at the end of the ball game. Otherwise, it represents one of the biggest collapses in the history of college football.
Yep.
All right, we'll see you later on as we leave you know that.
The time.
It's 9:05.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my soul.